It was a different world when I was a young man. It was much easier to travel to remote destinations. There was not nearly so much information on spiritual traditions, and there were far fewer teachers. This latter point meant, on the one hand, that it was difficult to find any teachers at all, but on the other hand, that there was a greater likelihood that their teachings were authentic. The Zen teacher was once asked, "What do you expect when you meet an enlightened teacher?" To which he replied, "I expect them not to be weird." To be a diviner is like this: to take the time to become sensitive to spirit and develop the skills whereby its intentions can be understood and ultimately communicated to others. It is not to be flamboyant or to seek attention. It is a sacred trust that ought to be performed with an appropriate degree of humility as an act of service to the whole. There is a second meaning to the story, however. For Zen teachers, the word normal refers to the inherent, enlightened, true mind. So expecting them not to be weird means that they not demonstrate any traits of the artificial, abnormal mind conditioned by social molding. The education of a diviner, then, is not so much about learning a particular type of divination as it is about learning how to be fully and harmoniously integrated into the natural state of spirit. When I tell people I was born in a cemetery, they generally think I am speaking metaphorically. "Weren't we all?" they often say, laughing, a hand going to my shoulder comradely. This always surprises me. Of all the things I might call this world, the last to come to mind would be a cemetery. No, 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 you are trying too hard. Oddly, his disapproval didn't sting as much as soothe. Master Kai Oxd had perfect command of his voice. You have to concentrate in a way that opens the door to the oracle so the other person might enter. I opened my eyes, resolved to start again. Across the table, watching me with a combination of doe-eyed gentleness and falcon-eyed intent, sat the man who'd taken me under his wing nearly 2 years before. As with most our sessions, he wore one of the spectacular Chinese robes he kept in the closet of his office. A stick of incense smoldered nearby a flickering candle. 3 antique coins lay on a silk cloth between them. Master Kai's broad smile reflected an inner calm that only seemed to accentuate the mischievousness dancing in his eyes. Without warning, he closed his eyes and began chanting a mantra under his breath. I did my best to match his breathing and let the syllables fall, pebble by pebble, to the bottom of my well. The air cleared, came into sharper focus, making it easier to make out the circle of diviners gathered in the marbled shade of an ancient pine. The lightest breeze bore the aroma of the sticks of incense from the center of the circle. Fleeting arrows of sunlight glanced off the coins lying in the lush grass. Papers shuffled. Voices murmured. Fingers pointing to this hexagram and that. Every sound echoed, amplified off the steep mountains enclosing the narrow valley. A gnat brushed my eyelashes. Something scurried over my sandaled foot. One of the diviners looked up, noticed us, and waved us over to join the circle. Master Kai cleared his throat. My vision blurred as the air thickened again, concealing the scene behind the mist of the five senses. "Enough for today," he said with gentle finality. I'd learned better than to argue, but I shook my head resignedly as I stood up. "I still can't tell what it is that you're doing." He beamed a perfect smile. It could mean anything: mocking me, empathizing with me, anticipating a cup of tea. He leaned forward, whispering dramatically, "You have to learn how to make the shift on your own." "Tell me, please, where exactly is the oracle?" he asked. I used Master Kai's voice to help refocus my meditation, which had begun drifting away from the question. Where indeed does the oracle dwell? How many times had I asked myself this in the past few weeks? I'd searched inside myself to no avail and convinced myself it did not exist as an object in the natural world like trees, mountains, rivers, wind, or clouds. Yet I could contact it, or rather could open myself to being contacted by it, so it must exist somewhere. The pursuit had become a kind of koan. It pulled at my attention, promising deeper communion with the oracle if I could just break through the mental barrier. I marshaled my thoughts again, concentrating on finding the oracle. But they scattered again right away. It all seemed as futile as blood running out onto sand. "Perhaps, then, you could tell me what language the oracle speaks." His voice had a hint of mockery, as usual, but the words were obviously intended to act as a pointer. I followed them. Symbols, I knew, made up the language of divination. As Master Kai constantly reminded me, an emperor asking about where to build the capital and a farmer asking when to plant the fields can obtain exactly the same hexagram and line changes, yet both their questions are answered perfectly. Such is the magical power of symbols. This I knew. Symbols formed the outer expression of the oracle speaking. But what language is the oracle actually speaking? What is it seeing? How is it describing what it perceives? I was surprised at the direction these new questions were taking me. The trigrams of the I Ching spontaneously swam before my inner vision, but not in their usual three-line forms. Instead, they appeared as images of their respective names, not as distant, self-contained pictures, but rather as looming entities within the swirling landscape within which I suddenly found myself. Twilight was punctuated by lightning flashes. Wind was howling. Mountains rose at the edge of a deep abyss. The moon set into a bottomless lake, and I was a feather being blown haphazardly among titanic forces. I gasped reflexively. My body jerked. My eyes snapped open. Master Kai sat in front of me with a broad smile. At last, he exclaimed, clapping theatrically with one hand. I'm doing an article on the work of Dr. Robert Sharp, and he gave me your name as someone who might talk about the technique he calls the press. Would you be willing to tell me what you got from the experience? Of course, I answered the woman on the other end of the phone. It trained me for the moment of dying. The cascade drummed against the water below. A pet deer, marked by the red kerchief around its neck, wandered among the pools carved into the volcanic riverbed. A red-tailed hawk circled between mountaintops above. A cobalt dragonfly rattled its wings as it patrolled its stretch of the river. Gentle sunlight lulled the breezeless day into a drowsy reverie. "How do you see what your eyes cannot see?" Don Alfredo asked me as he toyed with a round pebble he'd fished out of the pool beside us. I trusted that this was a rhetorical question and so held my peace. Besides, the day was so perfect, I was having trouble marshaling my attention. "There are two kinds of seeing," he answered himself. "The first kind, the normal kind, is tame seeing. It is a matter of letting the light come in through your eyes, of seeing what is already created, like taking in all this around us right now. The second kind, the rare kind, is wild seeing. It is a matter of casting the light out through your eyes, a matter of shining the new creation, of making the other world." I must have looked like a dog cocking its head, hearing words but recognizing none of them. When the Europeans came, we said that they had cobwebs over their eyes because the ideas they already had made it impossible for them to see the world clearly. This is because their tame seeing was like trying to see through spider silk. But it was also because they had no wild seeing. Nothing could come out of them but what they already believed. "They did not treat the Tarahumara well," I said sadly. "They could not see we are human beings too. They made us slaves to work in the mines they dug into our precious mountains. They had guns and were very cruel, so for a long time we suffered greatly in this world. That is why we strengthened our resolve to use wild seeing to create a new homeland in the other world. That is the world we live in much of the time because it takes time to make the creation strong enough for everyone to occupy." "Do I have cobwebs over my eyes, Don Alfredo?" "Your vision is growing clearer all the time, Guillermo." "Then why am I not seeing the other world of the Tarahumara yet?" "You cannot depend on tame seeing for that. You must throw your vision out into the world where the soul roams free. Tell me, what does our paradise look like?" I closed my eyes, trying to draw a picture from what I knew of the people of the Barranca del Cobre. "Herds of goat," I said, "grazing on the mountainsides. Wide fields of lush corn and beans and chile. Deep rivers full of trout and catfish. Many caves, enough for all the families to live in without having to build rock dwellings. Ceremonial clearings for rituals and games. Endless trails for running." I opened my eyes. Everything was as before. Don Alfredo smiled warmly, waving his arm at the valley before us with a sweeping motion. "Look, Guillermo, you have just described where we are. It has taken us a long time to bring the other world to life here in this world. We do not know how long we can sustain it in this modern world, but this is what it will look like forever." I felt as though my heart might break. I saw where my spirit would return forever. Nothing has changed, I thought, looking at the mountains and river and fields shining all around me. And yet everything has changed, my soul echoed. "I'm having a little dinner tomorrow night. I would appreciate it if you would attend," said Master Kayalx D, after a particularly long study of the I Ching hexagrams. This was not his way of actually asking me to do something. I arrived the next evening to find the large table in the meeting room set for a gathering of some dozen persons. All the plates and serving dishes and utensils were from China. The smells of aromatic vegetarian dishes filled the room. Large candles illumined the scene. Master Kai appeared carrying a pot of fresh tea, wearing one of his robes magnificently embroidered with dragons and tigers. "Ah, good, good. Come and join us," he said, motioning to a seat in the middle of the table. I took my seat, caught between appreciating the beauty of the setting and wondering what it was all about. He stood at the head of the table, smiling warmly, allowing his eyes to come to rest on each of the chairs. "Before we enjoy this wonderful repast, let us make our invocation," he said formally. Opening his hands and stretching them out to his sides, palm up, he intoned, "In the oneness of the past, present, and future, we have already awakened to our true nature. It is so. Now, my fellow Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it is my honor to bring together such an auspicious gathering of great-souled ones. May all benefit from our communion." He clapped his hands 3 times ritualistically, then turned to me and asked me to help him serve the food. He handed me the smaller of the 2 serving bowls and had me follow him around the table, adding rice to each of the plates after he had served the vegetable dish. We worked our way around, serving his plate last and then taking our seats. Closing his eyes and making a bow to the food before him, he said, "May the nourishment we are blessed with here increase the blessings of all beings." I repeated his gestures and words. His demeanor immediately changed from serious to merrymaking. Picking up his chopsticks, he announced jovially, "Enjoy, enjoy." I was in the middle of chewing my food when Master Kai asked, "What is the meaning of the order of the hexagrams?" I struggled to swallow in order to answer, although I had nothing to say but admit my ignorance. But to my surprise, he was not addressing me. He had turned to his right and asked the chair next to him. He nodded, listening attentively as he politely continued eating. He seemed to be about to say something else, but looked down and across the table to another chair, listening to what seemed further explication of the first answer. The evening progressed in that manner, with Master Kai asking technical and philosophical questions of his guests, 2 of whom he called by name, Chu Si and Xiao Yong. He seemed particularly interested in how to establish better rapport with the oracle and asked each of his guests to address that matter specifically. With each successive question and listening, I could better sense the presence of others with us in the room. Clearly, Master Kai had entered the in-between world and was enjoying the company and conversation of the sages. As we were finishing the meal, he turned to me and asked if I had a question of our guests. There had been something I'd been wondering about for some time, and so asked, "Why aren't there readings for the unchanging lines?" Master Kai hissed and called out in surprise to the table at large, "Ha! Now you see why he is my student." He turned to the chair to his right again, absorbing the answer and nodding thoughtfully. It suddenly occurred to him that I might not have heard the answer, and he said, "The reasons are essentially historical and amount to an oversight. He says that you will rectify that oversight in this lifetime." This was the manner in which Master Kai Ox-D taught me. It was the manner in which he introduced me to his own teachers. It was the manner in which he showed me how to address questions to the invisible sages accompanying us always. And it was the manner in which he assigned me tasks that would make up my life work.